Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and it's the return of the batch once again. Episode 9 is now out worldwide, and in this video we're going to be breaking down all the Easter eggs, things you missed, and hidden details in the show set in a galaxy far, far away. We're now at the latter end of the season, so it's going to be interesting to see how things develop and where the show goes from here. Now from this point out, it's full spoilers ahead, so if you haven't had a chance to check out the latest episode, then I highly recommend you take an R2 detour, and I'll C3PO you later. What? Also, smash the thumbs up button if you've been following us for the last 9 weeks, as it's the greatest way to support us for free, and I'll always think Yoda best. With that out of the way, thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into the Bad Batch. Yeah, get away with murder me sometimes. Anyway, the last episode saw the Batch on Bracca, and it Cad Bane showing back up, Crosshair getting the Anakin treatment, and the Batch being left at their lowest point. They'll clearly do whatever they can to make sure that nobody can lay a finger on Omega, and it's definitely something that's made them realise they have to fight back instead of running. Interestingly, we also saw that the Empire was slowly starting to take over full production control of the Kaminoans. As an organisation, they'd pretty much put their full faith in the fact that the Republic would want to buy soldiers from them forever, but they didn't account for the war ending, which would of course massively change things. Because they're so reliant on Imperial money, they now have to cater to their every whim, and it's going to be interesting to see what side they come down on. They really have the opportunity to either keep playing up to the Empire in order to try and make whatever money they can from them, or they could make a firm stance and say, screw you guys, don't lay a finger on her. Now that kind of takes us to the episode, which to me feels far more urgent than any of the other entries so far. Now the entry is called Bounty Lost, which, spoiler alert, is because the big bounty is lost. Unfortunately, we open with Crosshair chasing the Batch throughout the skies, attempting to gun them down. I was kinda hoping that he'd need medical care, and that he would be taken to the same place that the Batch had their chips removed, and from here he would have seen their procedures and had his taken out, which would have made him see the error of his ways. Sadly, that's my fanfiction for the rest of time, and I've given up hope that that's ever gonna happen. Now they make their way off planet with Wrecker sitting in the back gun turret, similar to A New Hope. They make the jump to lightspeed, realising that Cad Bane is long gone, and we cut to his ship to see Omega trapped behind a red force field that seems very similar to the barriers in the Phantom Menace. Bane's dropped her off in his prison, and he gives her an introduction whilst his little bot Toto 360 hops along holding his leg after having it blown off in the shootout last week. We get it confirmed that the Kaminoans were the one who hired him, and they agree to meet at the rendezvous point with unmarked credits. Bane is of course an outlaw, and the Imperials are slowly starting to seize currency, lock the borders down, and put a tight grip around the population so that they can't step out of line. Over the years in the expanded lore, we even learned that Palpatine had somewhat influenced the Stormtroopers and the Imperials, and that they all did evil things because he was emanating the dark side throughout the entire galaxy. Now it was thought that the Stormtroopers who resisted the First Order were actually Force sensitive, and though none of this has ever been confirmed, it's just been stuff I've read, there have been several interviews discussing a lot of elements like this. Thus, Bane wanting to stay out of the Empire's way as an outlaw makes sense, and I like that they dropped the unmarked credits line here. Now there's clearly some back and forth between the Kaminoans, with some seeing her as just being an object, whilst the others see her as a valuable life form. Much like Grogu, the cloners want her genetic material, and it's revealed that she's very, very special. Now so far she hasn't exhibited any force powers per se, and after what we learned in this episode, I kinda feel like that's just becoming a fan theory that probably won't come true. Tuan Wei is sent Tuan her way to Bora Vero to meet Bane, and on the ship Omega offers to fix Toto's little leg. At first he doesn't want to do it, but eventually he comes round and she escapes. Now back with the Batch, they go through the files on Bane and pull up the time that he tried to abduct Palpatine. There was even an episode in the Clone Wars where he took control of the Senate in order to free a Hutt prisoner. He's not in the main saga and no one cared who he was until he put on the hat, but Bane is a great character and I'm so glad he's in the show. After analysing Omega's genetic profile, Tech realises that she has first generation DNA. So get rid of those Palpatine clone theories right now, and she's more like the female version of Boba Fett. Technically, she might even be classed as his sister, and this shows the value that she has. We learn that Boba was called the Alpha, and this also explains the Alpha and Omega words that have been used to describe them. Since Jango died, the clones have been reusing the same strain of his genetics, but over time this has diluted. The batch themselves were created because the Kaminoans were forced to do alternate strands in order to see if there were better ways to use what they had left. Boba's disappearance has pushed things to mean that they pretty much have to get her in order to be able to start the clone process again. Jango was obviously very resourceful, and we see this mirrored in Omega, who manages to get her way out of the cell by tricking Todo. Cut to Borovio, and we see a very similar setup to the mining stations that were present in The Empire Strikes Back. There's also mention of the door handles being similar to the ones on Tipoca City, which, in case you don't know, is actually the name of the city of the cloners. Now these platforms look very similar to the ones at Tipoca, so I think we can assume they're simply floating versions of them due to the doors and what we later learn. The Kaminoans clearly have several operations like this throughout the galaxy, and who knows, we might even discover more as the show goes on. Omega tries to send a transmission to the batch, and though she makes it through, Bane catches her before she can fully let them know what planet she's on. Things take a turn though when Tuan Wei is found dead at the location, and it's revealed that Fennec Shand killed her for the payment. Turns out that Shand is working for the Kaminoan that wants her brought in safely, and it's clear that she's going to cause a lot of disputes amongst the race. Now it breaks out into a shootout, and I love when Shand kicks the thermal detonator. This loses the credits, but the fight doesn't stop, and Omega does a little hop through a slightly open door, similar to Han on the Death Star. A big twist comes when Omega encounters cloning vats at the location, and what looks like the Kaminoans inside it. It would be pretty crazy if we learned that the cloners were so good at carrying out the procedures because their entire species is based around duplicating each other. This would mean that we might even see Tuan Wei again, and who knows, they may all have chips in their heads and be completely loyal to the Prime Minister when he wants them to be. Outside, Shand and Fennec come face to face, and Bane lifts up his hat to reveal that he has a metal plate over his head. Bane never had this before in the Clone Wars, and they clearly bring focus to it for a reason. This could actually mean that he may have already had his fatal showdown with Fett and survived it. I'm not 100% sure on that, but just looking at the way it happens, it also makes a lot of sense. Omega climbs down to a flight pod, but Todo stalks her on the ladder, and I got a lot of Annie vibes from this. She jumps on him to get down there quickly, whilst Shand and Bane battle it out. Bane wins, but it's too late and the bounty's lost. Now Bane whips out the double flamethrower, but Shand bowlers him and kicks him off the edge, which forces the character to use his jetpack boots. Unfortunately, Omega's ship starts going haywire, but she's saved by the Batch, who pull her through the cargo chute, similar to what Luke was pulled through in The Empire Strikes Back. Omega is devastated that she's being hunted, and Hunter breaks it to her that she's so valuable because of her DNA strand. We discover that Shand shafted Bane's ship, and that she may be hiding in future in order to protect Omega. As long as Omega is safe though, that's all that matters, and after coming face to face with the Kaminoans in the tank, she realizes she doesn't want that life. Hunter makes a promise that he will protect her no matter what, and I actually think we might be getting some more bounty hunters popping up in the show at some point. Give us Bosk and I'll be happy, but that ends the episode on a really high note. Now as for my thoughts on the series, I really feel like they're taking things in directions that I wasn't expecting. I know over the months I've talked about how this show is very much about conformity versus independence, but I also feel that it has other themes going on in it, such as what it means to be human versus what it means to be used as a machine. Star Wars to me has always been about the rise and fall of Darth Vader, a man that ended up becoming a twisted, emotionless machine that carried out orders without question. However, Luke managed to bring him back around and remind him of what it meant to be human. This is something that is layered throughout the saga, and it's sort of like poetry. I mean, it doesn't rhyme or anything, but it just does the same things over and over again. Can we come up with a better way to say that? Anyway, Luke's journey itself was about him following in his father's footsteps, and it was clear that he should avoid his mistakes and keep his humanity, which was of course helped by his sister and his friends. This idea of what it means to be human, and the pitfalls that come when you lose it, is something that has popped up several times throughout the saga, making for it all to be really well connected. Now the Bad Batch was, I'm not going to say it's all connected. Now the Bad Batch were simply soldiers that followed orders and they didn't really feel anything or make their own choices. However, that has changed, and just in the same way that they were teaching Omega how to fight and be a soldier, she has taught the Bad Batch what it means to be human. That's why it was so crushing when she was taken away, and she's definitely the most important character in my opinion. I think the Batch, Hunter especially, really saw her as a ray of light, and when you look at all these elements, it's kind of crazy to be getting this in a show that many just see as a cartoon. That's why I really enjoy it. I think it's probably the best direction that they could have taken the Clone Wars after the show came to an end. I always wondered how things would go when they shifted the focus from the Jedi to the Clone Troopers, and though there were episodes in the series that did this, I didn't think they would carry the character complexities that this show has. So far, I've really enjoyed the show overall, and this episode was another great addition. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Bad Batch, its themes, and what you think will happen next time. Comment below and let me know, and as a thank you for interacting with the video, you'll be entered into a prize draw on the 30th of June, in which we're giving away 3 copies of the Phase 3 MCU box set. All you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the episode. The winners of last month's competition are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of Loki, which will be linked on screen right now. We've gone over the entire thing from top to bottom, so it's definitely worth checking out if you enjoy that show too. Now with that out of the way, thank you for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.